All right, can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me? Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to, well, it's afternoon now. Welcome to day one of 12 days of Christmas. Let me turn this down just a little bit. Let's get set. We're just going to allow the live to calibrate a little bit. I know that I was not, my mic was not on at first. So I just want to make sure that everyone can hear me and they can see me. We look great. Okay. Let me pull up my notes. All right. That's how we're going to do this. Letting a few more people get into the chat. Let's do something. We're going to switch it around. We're going to do a little switcheroo real quick so I can see what's going on here. All righty. We're going to begin in one more minute. I want to make sure that I don't start too early. I'm moving all my stuff out of the way. Okay. I think I'm a ladybug somewhere. I don't want to kill it. All right. Just want to make sure that everyone can see me and I can see what I have going on. Okay. Well, let me pull up my comments and shots. The people on TikTok acting up already. Okay. We are live. So I just want to introduce myself. My name is Jasmine Reeves. I am the owner and CEO of Enjoi Events and Travel. I launched my business in 2021 in Harlem, New York. I am a native of Atlanta, Georgia, though, graduate of Valdosta State University. I have a business management degree with 15 years of experience in production, corporate events, luxury group travel as well. I started off doing weddings at a very young age. And from there, my personal favorites have been destination events, travel, conferences, trade shows, and weddings. And so today we are going to talk a little bit about the different types of event professionals and how to classify them and what you would actually need for either your wedding or your destination event. Okay. So we are going to jump right in, not out, but in. So I hope you guys can see this and I can probably make it full screen for you guys. Let's see. There you go. All righty. So I do want to touch on the different types of planners. There are your social event planners, which they plan your celebrations, your birthdays, your bridal showers, your baby showers, your anniversaries, any type of private event. So think I am a person, I'm paying for my event. I am looking to hire a special event planner. Obviously, we know wedding planners, they manage, and I want to highlight the words that we're using, plan, manage, provide, coordinate. All of those different words will be used throughout this, and they will lift up to what exactly adjective you would say, or sorry, verb is what you do, that they, to describe what they do for each type of event. And so a wedding planner will essentially manage the wedding logistics, timelines, the vendor, and the vision of what you are planning for your wedding. And so we're going to break down a little bit more into what different types of planners they are and how you can be able to select the one that best fits your needs. We're also going to talk about the event specialist. So they provide more so an expertise in a certain area. So think these weddings that you go to and they have the extravagant florals, they have the glass tables, the flooring and everything else is customized and designed. A lot of times you will need event specialists to pull those types of weddings off. They go with design, logistics, production, and different types of vendor coordination. So I do want to lift that up as the event specialist. And then, of course, you have your destination and travel event planners. Those types of coordination events are for experience experiences that require travel, lodging, or group logistics. So your destination wedding, your incentive trips for work, sales trips, all of those different things. Influencer marketing. So a lot of times when you see your favorite influencers go on these brand trips and such, they would typically need a destination or travel event planner for those types of events. Okay. So now we're going to go into the different types. And so each one of those types of event planners and professionals, and sorry, let me go back one quick slide because I did have some other things that I wanted to cover, even though this is we are covering weddings or destination weddings. I do want to lift up, there are some other types of planners that we can talk about, which would be corporate event planners. Obviously they will handle business events, conferences, meetings, your retreats, your company celebrations, nonprofit and fundraising events. They will do like your galas, your donor engagement, community impact, as well as your experiential and live event planners. So they create more of an immersive, high energy experience like festivals, brand activations, and live productions. And then you have your virtual and hybrid event planners. They plan and manage online or hybrid events, digital platforms, and live stream technology. So yeah, that is definitely something that I just wanted to kind of lift up to you guys. And let me do a quick edit to this background because we don't want the background to show the same. There you go. All right. Okay. And so I did want to lift that up before I moved on to the next thing. All right. So oftentimes people are, confused on the difference between a planner, a coordinator, and a manager. So each one of those, the names prior to it can be interchangeable. So you can have your event coordinator, you can have your, wedding coordinator, you can have your travel coordinator, travel planner, manager. The difference between the three terms, and a lot of them aren't used individually or properly in the right terms, and so some of them can be interchangeable, and a lot of us do wear multiple hats depending on the type of event or who we're actually working for. So as a planner, you want to think strategy and vision, the pre-event planning, client facing. So this is where you come to someone and you're like, I want to have a wedding, I want to have 150 people, I don't want to plan any part of it. It is up to you to come up with the design, the venue, all of those different things. I'm just going to pay you a flat fee, approve the different things that you source and, take it for what it is. And so that is your planner. That is your end all be all encompassing for any type of event. And like I said, all of these things can be used interchangeably for conferences, galas, everything. Your planner is your head honcho person in charge. Next, you would have your coordinator. A lot of times these are for execution and logistics, their day of on-site vendor facing. And so this is your person that rallies everybody together. And I do want to also mention, as we're speaking about this, that these different types of people all three of them can be a part of your wedding or your event. And so you can have a planner, you can have a coordinator, and you can have a manager, because they do have some subsets that can help to execute the event flawlessly. So back to your coordinator, that is more execution and logistics. So they are calling all the vendors, giving them a time, they are outlining a run of show, they are making sure that they are there prior to the vendors to tell them where to set things up. They are also going to make sure that they coordinate with you to make sure that any things that you might have put in place for your wedding or planned goes up smoothly. And so a lot of times your coordinator should or ideally be hired, anywhere from 90 days to 120 days prior to your event. But you definitely want to get them in there at least a month prior so that you can have time to transfer the information, so that you can be able to reach out to your vendors. And then you also want to make sure that you actually can take the time to avoid any risk, anything like that. So, as a coordinator, we can see things that you don't see as a regular person. And so when you hire a coordinator, that coordinator is going to come in and really make sure that, you didn't forget your floral, or you didn't tell your seating to arrive at 6 o'clock and your wedding starts at 6:30. All of those different things your coordinator is really going to be able to get ahead of. And so you want to get them in to the ball and get that ball rolling, anywhere. Like I said, the sweet spot is 120 to 90 days, but you don't want to wait anything less than 30 days. Okay. So now you're going to go to your manager. Your manager is the operations and the leadership. You want to think big picture, oversight, team facing. And so a lot of times the managerial roles are typically more so on the corporate side or the gala side, all of those different things where you do have a bit of a team. If you actually are hiring an agency that has multiple team members, then there will also be like an event manager that is there to work within the team and to help delegate. And so again, that manager is also going to work with your communications, your Marcom team, all of those different internal teams that you might have to pull off your conference or your event. If you're thinking destination wedding, your manager is also going to be that point of contact that works between the venues and all of those things. Okay. So we are going to move on. We're doing good on time. Okay. All right, so now we're going to talk about the different types of event professionals. And so, there are subsets to all of this. And oftentimes, if you have a wedding, you're going to have one or more of all of these types of people that I'm listing. All of them do have, significant roles to pull off, large scale weddings or weddings that have a lot of moving parts. Okay. So let's scroll. I'm just making sure I'm keeping up with my notes. Okay. Next slide. All right. And so we're going to first talk about your design professionals. You have your event designer who develops the visual concept, decor, aesthetics for the event. You're going to have your floral design. And so those are your beautiful arches at your altar. Those are the ceremony centerpieces. That is your centerpieces for your rehearsal dinner and anything in between, your floral designer. And so you don't oftentimes have to have a floral design. Sometimes people choose to DIY it and such. But, if you really want one of those high end luxury floral designs, you're going to need a floral designer. Next, you have your lighting design. So you're thinking your uplights, your, light shows. So a lot of times when you see the spotlights and all those different things that are happening, sometimes that could be your pyro. I'm not going to butcher that word, but basically the person that does the fireworks and those sparklers and all those things on the dance floor. Sometimes your lighting company will also be in charge of the fog machine and such. And so your lighting designer can be different from your AV team, or they could be hired through your AV team. And so I do want to lift that up as an additional person or professional that could be used if you have some detail in your lighting that you would like to use. A lot of times people don't use that much detail in their weddings, but for conferences and things like that, or concerts where you have to spotlight and all the light shows, you will need a lighting designer. And then just your rental company. So a lot of times you're going to need to rent furniture. Sometimes your venue is only going to have your standard 60 or 70 inch rounds. They're only going to have, conference-like chairs. They might not have the Chiavari or the clear chairs that a lot of people want for their wedding. A lot of times people want soft seating to mix into their wedding. So you're definitely going to have to consider a rental company for your furniture and such. And so those are your different design and creative professionals. There are plenty more that I can list, but we're just keeping this high level for today. Now we're going to go into more of your production and technical professionals. You're going to need a production manager. So that is a person that oversees the stage. So if you have like a high rise for your altar, or, you choose to do a runway of sorts. That will be your production manager that goes through the staging. They will help with load in, setup, and breakdown logistics. And so that is, again, also coordinating with your lighting design, your rental company, and all those such to make sure that nothing is clashing with each other. A lot of times you might have some type of backlight or backdrop, that you're going to need to use. And so you want to make sure that the lighting doesn't, blur out your backdrop, or that, as you're standing there at your altar, that you're not washed out, or that the people can see you. A lot of times, if you're going to have screens or anything like that, they will be the ones to make sure that those are set up and good. Okay. All right. So next, we're going to talk about the audio visual, which stands for AV team, and they manage your sound, your screens, your lighting, and your technical production. And so the difference between overseeing your production manager and your actual audio visual team are those that actually are the ones that are pressing the buttons, that are making sure that your slideshow or your reel is playing at a certain time, that the lights go off at a certain time. All of those different things. That AV team are the people that actually press the button. Again, a lot of times the AV team still needs to order all of the supplies and equipment from other different rental companies, lighting designers, all of those different things. And so that audio visual team is the one that actually pulls off the management and execution of your technical production. Okay. Again, we're not going to get too deep into that now. We can talk about that in the vendors later on down the line. But I do want to lift that up to you. And then you have your entertainment director. And so this is one of those positions that can be flexed, or, can be tied in with your AV company, or, even your event planner, but they're going to coordinate performances, DJs, bands, and your show flow. And so I would also consider this maybe like your stage manager. Some people choose to use your AV team stage manager because they already have a great working relationship with the AV team. Again, those people that are going to press the button, and you need someone that's going to call out those cues and let them know when to queue up, when to go, when to shut down, when to turn on, all of those different types of things. If you choose to bring in someone else, again, you want to make sure that they have a good working relationship and they know who they're calling on for certain points. And so your entertainment director can be someone that you bring in or someone that you use through the company. Okay. So those are all of your different types of high level event professionals. I definitely wanted to kind of explain the background and the thought process around some of these positions, because as we go into finer details and such, a lot of times these are positions that people don't really consider as they're planning, and they think, okay, I want this big, beautiful, well lit, I want fireworks, I want all these different things, and they're not really thinking about not only the cost that is associated with that, but also what exactly I'm sorry, I'm reading a comment that threw me off. No, this isn't a credit repair. I am doing 12 Days of Christmas. And so this is for brides or event professionals to learn more about the event industry. So back to what I was saying. So those are your different professionals that you'll need. And so a lot of these terms, a lot of times people, as you're in the planning process and you hear all of these different names and titles and people that need to be a part of the team, you're like, I thought I had a wedding planner. I have everything I need. And no, the wedding planner is not the end all be all for all of these different things. And, we have expertise on a high level for each one of these roles, but we don't know or can't manage the day-to-days that go into these roles. And so I definitely wanted to lift that up to you. TikTok, if you guys would like to join me on YouTube or Instagram, I am there. You guys can actually see the presentation. I can't really share it on here, so I'm just on live with you guys on the phone in here. So there's an actual presentation that I'm reading from that you guys can tap into. Okay. All right. So we are going to do a little Q&A. I don't have any brides on the line right now, but I am just going to go ahead and read to you all. Matter of fact, I think I can pull it up here. I'm going to read to you all some Reddit questions that are based on what exactly I put in the topics that we just covered. And I can just kind of answer their question for you guys so that you guys can have that insight as you go into your planning process. The question is, hi, besties. My fiance and I are 10 months away from getting married. Our venue is officially booked, but we are a bit torn on a wedding planning or coordination. She means a wedding planner or coordinator. We for sure want a day of and probably month of package for a coordinator or planner, but are not sure where to go from there. Some things we have already done that makes us think that we don't need a full planner. Theme, color palette, aesthetics fully decided, already in the contract okay, hold on. There's some typos here. Already in contact with and know which vendors we want to use. Florals, photo, video, linens, food, DJ, officiant, etc. Fully organized Google Docs, wedding plan with timeline and budget. Here are my hesitations and questions that keep me from just booking a month up. Are there things that we are forgetting? Any rentals that need to be made? Will a planner or coordinator have discounts? What is the difference between a planner and a coordinator? I mean, actually, um, we are wanting to stay as close to possible to a budget of 15 to 20K. We live in Oklahoma. For context, that is very important. And neither of us are stressed at this point and are very much enjoying the planning. I just don't want to pay someone 3K to do what we've already done perfectly. Okay. All right. So her question is multi-layered, and based on what I've already kind of told you guys, the difference between a planner and a coordinator, which she does seem to kind of already understand and process, is that your planner is a more high level. They're going to really work through what she just said, your color palette, your theme, your budget, all of those different things. And so because she has already began to source a lot of those things, she is definitely in good standing to not necessarily need a planner. Because she is 10 months away from her wedding, though, she still has a lot of time for a full planner to come in and review those contracts, get any addendums that are required, to actually make sure that she's not forgetting anything, overpaying for anything. And such. And so, her first question about, are we forgetting anything? That is definitely something that a coordinator can definitely get in and get ahead of. But because she has done a lot of it all, she can definitely move more towards a coordinator. With a coordinator, a lot of people assume planners and coordinators have some sort of special discounts and things. Yes, we do have working relationships with other vendors, but a price is a price, work is a work, and we don't, have vendors that are willing to, cut corners, just for a discount. Now, will we be able to help you save money? Absolutely. Will we be able to help you avoid any pitfalls, any, risk management things that could go wrong that will cost you lump sums of money on the back end? Yes. I.e., are you having an outdoor wedding? If you're having an outdoor wedding, if you don't already have at least a tent deposit paid and reserved so that you can get a tent built if there is a rain contingency, then yes, that is something we can be able to help you with. Making sure that you have, I just drew a blank, tents, and I was going to say something else. But basically, rain plans is definitely something that we definitely can get ahead of, that can become a large ticket item as you're trying to pivot. So as I stated prior, your wedding coordinator, which is definitely something that she can probably get away with because she has done all this planning. She is aware of things. If she chooses to hire her wedding planner even now, she could definitely just do a introductory consultation to make sure that everything is on the same page. That coordinator can be able to give her an outline or a timeline of what needs to be done over the next 10 months, any follow-ups, and then they can also begin to take the stress off of the bride and their fiance, so that they can start to manage a lot of the follow-ups that the vendors are going to have, the site visits and all of those different things. And so a lot of times brides think, oh, I've done all the planning, I got all the cute Google Docs, I got the timeline and everything else, but you're not going to be able to execute on your wedding on the day of. And so you definitely want to have someone that is there to make sure that they make all ends meet and that everything is working in your best favor and not the favor of any of the vendors or the venue. And so that kind of just basically answers her question. And so she is in a really good place to be able to hire whichever one she feels the need to. But I do always say, a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to pay $3,000 to someone to pull this off when I've already done the work. But I promise you, the smallest things that they can do with that $3,000 and saving you money on the back end that you might have to spend by not hiring them, it makes it worth it. So if I can get in and you pay me $3,000 and I can save you $1,500, $2,000 in fees or something else that you did not think about, then that makes my $3,000 absolutely worth it, and it relieves the stress from you. So I definitely think that if I was her, I would just do some consultation calls with some wedding planners, coordinators, and see which one fits best for you. A lot of times, she might be able to get some referrals from some other friends of someone that they've used. And then, maybe you can be able to go from there in selecting what is best fit for you. But that just kind of answers the questions that she had. We're going to do one more question. All right. And so this kind of leads me into my next segue. And so we're going to read this question. We're going to go through it, and then we'll talk about what an actual CMP is. And so her question is, let me take a little sip of coffee. Let me check my comments. All right, we're still live. We're doing good. We're doing good. All right. So, hi, ladies. Hold on, let me update this so I can read it. Okay. Hi, ladies. Just looking for some input on how much of a help or hassle your planner has been. Interesting way to open that question. I don't have a huge budget, and I don't know what the going rate for a planner is. Could anyone fill me in? What about a day of coordinator? Is having one of these positions a must? Would a wedding planner play the role of a day of coordinator, or would I need to hire one or both? Or could I really pull this thing off all on my own? My mother is a control freak. But this makes her a very good planner. Could she do that for me? Or would that be giving the control freak too much power? I didn't say it, you did. Sorry if this is rambling. I'm just looking for your thoughts and experience on these two roles. Thanks. Okay. So we're going to start with the big elephant in the room. Don't give your control freak mother any more power than she already is going to have. I'm pretty sure that with her saying that her mom is a control freak, that she has had more than a few inputs and opinions about the wedding and such. And so, again, your mother is still your mother, and this is a part of her day as well. You want her to be able to enjoy herself. You don't want her telling your bridesmaids when to go down the aisle, because she can't. She's going to be seated already, baby. You don't really want her to be trying to tell you when to cut the cake and all those kinds of things. And so I definitely want you to remove the idea of your control freak mother having anything to do with the day of coordination out the way. I just want to save you and her that stress. The next thing that I want to say, day of coordinator. Do you have a wedding planner and a day of coordinator? Depending on the wedding planner, depending on the type of wedding you're having, if you have a lot of moving parts, you may need two. You may need three people. Your wedding planner may need a team. So yes, you could have multiple roles. I would definitely say you need multiple roles if you have several different locations. So if you're getting married at a church and then you're going to a reception venue, absolutely. You're going to need two people. Somebody needs to be here, somebody needs to be there. If you're going to have any type of flip for your wedding, so that means you're getting married and your reception are all in the same space and you're going to have to get your attendees out to flip the space. Yes, you're going to need all hands on deck for any types of flips. In terms of the budget for a wedding planner, that is flexible. I kind of read when I was doing my research, it was like, if the wedding planner charges you too low of a price, then that disqualifies them. And I don't agree with that. As a person who's been doing weddings since a very young age, I have definitely pulled off more than a few weddings, full planning service for pennies, if not free. So that does not qualify the wedding planner at all. Oftentimes, I can either do an hourly rate if that helps stick within your budget, that helps you out in the long run. I could definitely do that. If this is a larger budget, I would either do a percentage of your budget. So if you have a 100K wedding, I'm going to charge 10% of that. All of those different variables can go into it. Where is your wedding? How much work is it going to require? Are you just going to the courthouse and having a reception? All of those different things play a factor in what is going to be your budget for your wedding planner. And so that is definitely something that she just kind of has to review. We are going to be talking about budgets tomorrow. So definitely be there. We're going to actually go through a full budget and I'm going to kind of outline and help you guys get a good visual on what to expect when you're budgeting out for your wedding. And so that is something that we will include in that price. With that being said, she didn't say how much of the planning she's already done. She didn't give any background like the previous lady. So I would say she probably needs to go ahead and hire a wedding planner. And then from there, they can tailor those services for what it is that she needs. I think I covered all the questions that she had. But definitely doing it herself is not an option. Do not do anything yourself. You definitely are going to need a day of coordinator, okay? So we're done with Q&A. I don't have any questions in the chat. So we're going to go on to exactly what qualifies me as an event professional. And a lot of times people have, never asked me what my qualifications are and credentials and what training I have around events. They do ask me what is my experience, what's my resume, and who have I worked with. But, a lot of times your credentials and your training definitely plays a huge role as an event professional. And so over the next couple of slides, and as we begin to wrap, we have about 20 minutes left. I'm going to cover what a CNP actually stands for, why the certification actually matters in a wedding format, corporate events, large scale productions, and who the CNP designated for. It is basically for experienced professionals and it's not just a hobby. And so, I pulled this screenshot from my website and I just want to, reintroduce myself. My name is Jasmine Reeves. I am a CNP founder of Enjoi Events and Travel. I'm located in Atlanta. I have 15 years of experience in event production, corporate event management, luxury group training, group travel planning, and I provide expertise and concierge level service from destination weddings to international retreats. I create seamless, story-driven experiences designed for clients who want stress-free, memorable events and travel. Okay. So a lot of people assume, oh, you're certified. What does CNP mean? Did you get that from LinkedIn? No, absolutely not. There is a lot of experience that goes into being a CNP. And so, first, we're going to just talk about what it takes to earn a CMP and what exactly does CMP stand for. I am a certified meeting professional. I do want to lift up because it used to be like a certified meeting planner. That used to be the term that was used. And so now they've changed it to meeting professionals. And since I've explained to you guys earlier in the live what exactly different types of event professionals are and how they can be subset into different titles, that is why they have given it a very high level certified meeting professional name. And so meeting is interchangeable for events as well. You can be a meeting planner and basically you're just an event planner. You can be a meeting planner and you plan conferences. Those are all considered things. And so what I tell people all the time, being that I have a variety of experience, you can check my resume out anywhere. An event is an event. A baby shower, a conference, a trade show, all of those different things, they all have the same standard moving parts. You're going to need some type of registration RSVP process. You're going to need food. You're going to have some type of microphone, AV system. You're going to have some type of programming. You're going to have some type of, seating arrangements. All of those different things are all standard parts of events. And then from there, it's broken out into what the actual event is. And so as a certified meeting professional, this is a globally recognized designation for experienced event professionals. I believe there is somewhere between 13 to 15,000 people that actually hold this license in the world. So it is very, very, very exclusive, and it is designated for the experienced event professionals. To qualify as a planner, personally, you needed 3 to 5 years of professional event experience. They want that to be consecutive time, and they want it to be full-time roles. And so as a business owner, owning my business since 2021, I qualified. And being that I've been doing events since I graduated college in 2015, I have an extensive resume of event experience that helped me qualify that particular position. Qualification. I am getting tongue tied. All right. And so then you needed to provide a documented portfolio of complex events. And so again, because of my resume, because of my background, I was able to show and prove my experience as an event professional and what types of events I've pulled off. I've done weddings, I've done auto shows, trade shows, conferences, meetings, user meetings, destination weddings, destination conferences. So I've done conferences in Jamaica. I've done a wedding in Morocco, all those different things. So I had to have a lot of complex events, virtual, hybrid events. I've worked in all of the virtual platforms you could think of and name. And if I haven't, they're all the same. So definitely have a lot of experience there. And then you had to complete the approved professional education. So there is 21 or somewhere around there CEU credits that you're required to get. And so a lot of times you can earn those credits either by, doing a lot of little webinars, or you can do smaller study programs. As for me, I wanted a more one-stop shop program. And so I went through UGA's program to become a certified meeting manager. And so in that process, I spent the weekend. We got there on Friday. We left Sunday morning, I believe, or Saturday night, one of those. And so we did 2 full days of classes there. And then the following 6 or 8 weeks, something like that, each Saturday for about 4 hours, we got online. We did the class. And so I am also a certified meeting manager. I don't really mention that because the certified meeting professional trumps that, but those were the qualifications that were required to do that. Not only did I do that class for a semester, I also did a study program through the EIC board, which is actually the Events Industry Council, who is actually the ones that designate the CMP. And so I did their study session, and a lot of books. I have plenty of books on events and things like that. And so again, this is not just your take a little hour class online and now you're certified. This is something that takes a lot of time and diligence to receive this certification. And so then, as if that wasn't enough, the next thing that was required is that you pass a rigorous certified exam. So that exam is 165 questions, somewhat like the SAT. You go into a proctored exam. So you pick your exam location, you go, they have like literally, you see how I have my, I was going to call it what the interior designers call it, in your boob lamp. So where my boob lamp is where they had a camera over my head, and the test was actually on the computer. So not only do you do that, the test that I ended up taking was the beta exam. And so they refreshed the test this year. And I actually took the first version of that test to actually qualify a lot of the questions. So I guess I can say that I made a little bit of history with the CMP exam as well. And so with that test, it's 165 questions. It is not graded on your typical, okay, you got 165 questions divided by 100. Okay, you can only miss a certain amount of questions. No, each question is ranked on its own scale, on its own point system. So you can't go in there and say, okay, I know I need to, get 140 or 120 questions right to make an 80%. No, you just need to answer as many questions as possible and hope that they're right. So it is a very rigorous exam. It is not something that you can, cheat your way through. It is not something, even if you choose to take it at home, what they're going to do is they're going to make you pan your camera all around the room, and they're going to make sure that you don't have anything on your computer, anything else like that. If for any reason while you're on camera taking the test, if you look down or you look under or your dog's in the room, any of those things will disqualify you from the exam. So again, I want to reiterate, this is not your typical certification where I just completed a 1-hour webinar and now I'm certified. I cheated my way through the questions. I retook the quiz as many times as possible to pass. No, this is definitely something where they make sure that you actually know the information and that you are committed to being an event professional. All right. And so, that is the final qualification, that you commit to ongoing ethical standards and continuing education. So that also means that you are also studying on sustainability, that you are studying on, keeping up to date on different types of trends and all of those different things. What are the ADA requirements for an event and all of those different things. And so as we go into some of the details of what I learned, a lot of times when I'm working with different people, they're like, oh, I just want you to do something this way. And I'm like, as a standard and as a professional in this industry, the lighting is getting a little wonky. Okay, there you go. As a professional in this industry, I carry myself to a certain standard, and I am not going to just throw something out there. I'm not going to skip over your ADA requirements. I'm not going to, not order any fish, or, make sure that I'm going to make sure that I honor all the dietary restrictions for your attendees. I'm going to make sure that their registration process is smooth and, all things flow. And so being a professional in this industry, that is really important to me. And so a lot of times I have to, reiterate to my clients, that I operate on a professional and ethical standard, and that I'm going to continue to educate them on those standards. Okay. All right. And so I've kind of touched on some of the points, but I just do want to lift up, that CMP trainers during those different classes and things, that we were taught strategic event design and objectives. We were taught budget creation, tracking, and reconciliation. We were taught contract negotiation and risk management, vendor sourcing, vetting, and performance oversight. We were also taught logistics planning for multi-day, multi-location events, and then crisis management and contingency planning. So all of these different things, a lot of these things you can learn in different formats. And again, because the CMP professional, meeting professional can be anyone. all of those different roles that I named, your AV team, your production manager, all of those different people can be CMP certified. And so because some of them come from backgrounds where they've only been working with AV or lighting, they might not understand, banquet orders. They might not understand dietary restrictions. They might not understand, contract negotiation and all those different things. And so if you do come from a strong event background and you had experience in all those things, obviously you're just learning the right way to do things, because, there are a lot of rules that kind of should be followed. How early or soon should you get your hotel involved? How early or soon should you place your meal orders? All of those different things. There are set standards, but we all know, as like myself, I just planned a Christmas party in less than 4 days. So, there are standards that we would love to follow, but if your client hires you 2 days before your event, you got to pull it off, and there's no deadlines, So, in those trainings and in those classes, I did have to relearn some of the things that I've learned for myself. And I also had to, I didn't throw that good. And then I also had to, just touch up on a few different things. And so I do want to lift up why those things are taught to you in the training, because you're thinking, if you've been in events for 4 or 5 years and you've done all this stuff, shouldn't you already know these things? But no, because this is a broad certification that covers all types of event professionals, some people do have to cover that information and be trained on it. So the next thing that I do want to lift up is, like, how can a certified meeting planner help you? What are the benefits that you get from me being certified? And that is, I'm going to protect your budget from hidden fees and surprise costs. Off rip, I am going to be able to point out what numbers need to be what. I'm going to review. Your AV is always going to be where most of your hidden costs are. So I'm going to go in and make sure, okay, you don't need 2 screens. You don't need 6 foot here. You don't need this. You don't need those lighting there. You don't need to load in at 6 o'clock. Maybe you can get to start loading in at 8, kind of thing. So I'm always going to protect your budget. I am going to prevent any timeline breakdowns or any derails of the day. So I'm going to, again, make sure that your schedule runs smoothly. I'm going to make sure all of your vendors have, the right times. Again, there's layers to this. So your lighting can't come in and load in before your AV team, or vice versa. Your lighting might be set up before all of those different things. We're going to make sure that, 1, we're all on the same page, and 2, that we're funneling in and funneling out in the best possible ways for your wedding or your event. As a wedding planner, managing family dynamics is something that goes understated all the time. As we all know, there are a lot of blended families out here. There are a lot of families that have divorced. There are a lot of families that, have outside children. There are so many different aspects that go into family. Just people don't get along. There are so many aspects that go into family dynamics that we are going to get ahead of. So do you need a table for dad and a table for mom? All right. I'm going to make sure your hostess know dad's side over here, mom's side over there. What cousins get to sit at the head table versus what cousins got to sit over there at their table. You know what I'm saying? Because, when there's a family table, the cousin that you ain't seen in 4 years, they like, I'm supposed to be sitting here. And it's like, no, sweetie, no. I understand you're a cousin. I know your family, but you got to sit over there, kind of thing. And so those family dynamics, it is important. It is really important. I do also want to lift up the expectations and vendor communication. We've talked about that. We're not going to beat a dead horse. We're also going to talk about handling emergencies quietly and professionally. Weather issues, late vendors, no-shows, last-minute changes. I do not stress my bride about anything that I can handle on my own. Even if I need to pivot on the day of, at that point, I've already reassured you that whatever I choose to do is going to be based on my expertise, and I'm going to do it in the best interest of you. So if that means, weather and rain, okay, I'm going to come to you and I'm going to say, hey, it's supposed to rain in an hour. Your wedding starts in an hour and a half. What are our pivots? What are we going to do? If there is a late vendor, I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to be calling them. I'm going to be blowing them up. If there is a chance that your cake is not going to be out there by the time your reception starts, I'm probably not going to tell you until you walk in and probably see your cake is not there, kind of thing, because I'm not going to stress you out about that. I'm going to try to get it there as fast as possible. And then we'll talk about it on the back end, because me telling you your cake is late and then you've been stressed out your whole wedding and then it pops up there when you're done. And so it's like you spent your whole time at your altar wondering if your cake is going to show up, when that's not something that you really should have to worry about. You know what I'm saying? And honestly, a lot of people might feel like, no, tell me in the moment. And I can discuss that with my bride. Some people can handle it, some people can't. But I'm not going to give you any additional stress that you don't need. If when you get ready to walk into your reception and your cake is not there, there's nothing that neither of us can do about it. So I think telling you at that point to just go sit down and enjoy your time. We're going to get you some cake from somewhere. We'll figure it out, kind of thing. And I'm just using the cake as an example. But, there are plenty of things that happen throughout the wedding. And I'm not going to stress you out about that. And I'm going to try to pivot in the best ways possible. Okay. We are almost done. I am doing great on time. All right. And so as we get into actually why a CMP matters for destination weddings and group travels, destination wedding and group travels add layers of complexity that requires advanced planning skills. And so a lot of people assume, okay, my hotel or the resort that I'm getting married at, they have an event planner. They're going to take good care of me. And it's like, no. They are typically your day of coordinator, and they're only there for the best interest of the venue. They're not going to be there to say, hey, your bridesmaids aren't here on time. Are they going to be dressed on time? They're not there to say, hey, your mom is stuck outside. How do we get her in? They're not there to say, any of your vendors that are outside of the wedding. So like, they're going to be there to make sure that your venue is set properly. They're going to make sure that if the catering comes through the venue, that's done properly. They're going to make sure that anything that they're involved with is good. And if you have a good wedding planner, they might be a little nice and do little small things for you. But overall, they are not there for your best interest. They are there for the best interest of that venue contract that you signed, and making sure that they pull off all of those things that are within that contract. And even then, they might not make sure that those things are done properly. And so you're always going to have someone that is what I consider myself to be, especially as a CMP, is like your event lawyer. Like, I am the one that is coming through and making sure that all things are right and just based on your contract, based on standards, and based on expectations. That is what I'm always going to be able to do. And I am there for the best interest of you. I don't care that the venue is going to have to call in 6 extra workers to pull this off. That has nothing to do with me. You knew we needed a flip and you need to make it happen, kind of thing. And so that is definitely something that, I definitely think that is important for you to have someone to be there on your side. The other things that they're trained to manage that are exclusively for destination or wedding, weddings that involve room blocks. So obviously we'll definitely cover your room blocks, your contracts, your attrition clauses, and any other clauses for that matter. We're going to review. We're going to make sure that all of those things are lifted up and you are aware of whatever your contractual agreements are. Travel timeline, guest communication. A lot of times people assume, my wedding planner is going to, or the event planner for the venue is going to make sure that my bridesmaids know what time to arrive, or that, that they know what time we're having our rehearsal dinner and all those different things. No, your wedding planner, the person that you hire, is the one that is going to help with any of the actual due diligence that is leading up to and after your wedding. So that brunch that you want to have on Sunday morning, your wedding planner is going to do that. All of those different things. And even still, that still has to be something that is within your contract with that wedding planner as well. Obviously, vendor coordination across time zones, cultural norms. I am working with a client for a trip to Japan currently. And so when I send an email at 2 a.m. in the morning, I'm going to get a response. When I send an email at 12 noon, I'm not going to get a response. Why? Because of the time differences. So, a lot of times I do have to wait up to communicate with those different time zones to make sure that things are met. Oftentimes, you think, I did a destination wedding. I didn't do a wedding. I was in the wedding. And the bride did not ask the hotel if they had elevators. And her grandmother needed wheelchair assistance. And so her grandmother was climbing up 3 flights of stairs throughout the entire week of her wedding because she did not request a handicap accessible room, and she did not confirm that the hotel had no elevators. Another story for another time. But yes, those are different things that a certified meeting professional is going to get ahead of and make sure you are in good standing for. Okay. I don't know why this. Oh, hold on. Okay. Hey. All right, we almost done. All right, and then we've talked about contingency planning, travel delays, cancellations, all of those different things. Risk management is definitely something we're going to help you get ahead of. Okay, so as we wrap up for today, I do want to lift up what day 2 is going to be about: budgeting. That is something, and the reason that I did this in this order, I tried to organize the days in the way that you should plan. And so, once you figure out, what you need and who you need to hire, your next step is figuring out what your budget is going to be. A lot of times brides get so excited, they get engaged, and they're like, oh my gosh, I already know what venue I want. I already know how I'm going to do it. Let me go to this venue, lock in my date, sign the contract. And next thing you know, you have agreed to a $20,000 venue and your wedding budget is $30,000, baby. And we got to talk about, the details of a budget, because what actually goes into your budget? Your wedding day, your wedding weekend, your honeymoon, activities leading up to, your dress, your shoes, all that. A lot of people don't think about that. They think about, oh, my wedding budget is $30,000. But then once you get to, the end of your wedding and you're calculating all of these different things, you're like, I just only thought about the day of. I didn't think about my bridal shower. I didn't think about my bachelorette. I didn't think about my honeymoon. I didn't think about all the expenses that go into the small details, small details. An Uber here, an Uber there, getting your dress altered, picking up a cake, sending all the different fees that you have to pay. And so as we talk about budgeting tomorrow, again, I'm going to help you guys lay out a budget, what should be included in your budget, how you should set it up. And then we're going to actually plug and play some numbers so that you can realistically see what a wedding actually costs. And fun fact, I'm going to let you know the average wedding is about $50K in 2026. Minimum, baby, especially in a place like Atlanta. So that is all that I have for you guys today. Let me see if I have any more slides. Nope. We are wrapping it up, and we are in just the perfect timing. It is 1 o'clock. I am going to talk to you guys later and see you tomorrow. Have a great day, okay?